Coming up next on Functional Moms Podcast.
How would the average person know I need to see someone to help me with my lymphatic drainage?
Everybody needs to support their lymphatic system. Modern life, we're super stressed. We're in really bad posture, rounded shoulders, forward head position. I know, right?
I'm fixing myself.
But because this is such a vitally important area for the system, when we're like that, everything shuts down and closes, right? Everything gets shortened. So it's just everybody needs it.
Welcome to Functional Moms Podcast, lifestyle medicine for women over 40. Let's age on our own terms. This episode is for you if you're looking to reduce puffiness, eye bags, look younger naturally, and even create a more defined jawline. We are going to learn all about our lymphatic system and how we can support it.
Courtney Santos is a licensed bodywork therapist and certified lymphedema therapist specializing in lymphatic health and TMJ dysfunction.
Courtney has an online wellness business for busy moms and women, teaching lymphatic massage self-care. Courtney also owns Colysa Therapies in Bedminster, New Jersey, where she supports post-op recovery for clients healing from a wide range of surgeries.
Courtney, thank you so much for coming on the show. We would love to start by having you explain what the lymphatic system is.
Thank you so much for having me. It's very exciting. So the lymphatic system is really the most powerful and influential system that we have in the body because it has intricate ties to every other system of the body. Neurological, gastrointestinal, immune, hormone, cardiovascular is all influenced by our lymphatic system. But what the lymphatic system actually is our transportation system. It transports all these different elements in the body, from toxins to immune cells, hormones. It aids in digestion by transporting amino acids and proteins, fatty acids. It also helps in maintaining fluid levels within the body. If there's any excess fluid, it returns it back to the bloodstream, and as well as storing immune cells and transporting immune signals. So really, it's a transportation system. It aids in a lot of different functions. A lot of people think of it as it's like our toxin. It detoxes us, which it absolutely does aid in that, but it's transportation where it moves a lot of things throughout the body. And the different parts of the lymphatic system, we can talk about a little bit just so everyone has an understanding of, how it's all structured. We have our lymph, which is clear fluid that runs through the system. Then we have our lymphatic vessels, which one of my most favorite depictions of the lymphatic system is like a tree underneath our skin where we have, all these leaves, right? So many leaves. And then it goes to branches and trunks and to roots, right? And so that's very similar with our lymphatic system. Right under our skin, we have these vessels, our capillaries, that are like little fingers hanging out in space. And when the pressure in the interstitial fluid or interstitial space gets too much, the little fingers will open and allow fluid inside. And then it will go to what's called pre-collectors, just little transitional tunnels. And then it goes to collectors, which are segmented pathways through the body. It's kind of interesting because our body has specific drainage pathways that these collectors follow. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But within those collectors, we have, they're lined with smooth muscle. And so they kind of act as like a pump. They have a little valve where when pressure gets to be too much, that valve will open and it contracts and the fluid goes up. And so it's all these segmented little things within these tunnels that actually propels lymph to move. And then all of that fluid goes to our lymph nodes, which is like little filtration hubs. It filters out the toxins and it scans for different bacteria and viruses, things like that. And then the lymph goes to bigger pathways. Like we have lymphatic trunks, ducts, and then it empties back into the bloodstream.
Wow. So it's a lot more complicated than I even thought of. Because when I hear it, I just hear, okay, you got to work on your lymphatic system to, detox is what you hear. Like those are like kind of the buzzwords you hear. But I hear that it's so much more than that. And how can you share, I guess, a little bit more? You mentioned the immune system. How does it work with that?
Yeah, so it works with the immune system to really boost and support it. It transports immune cells, and then in the lymph nodes, it does scanning of, what's in the fluid. So if there's anything that's not supposed to be there, a lot of times those lymph nodes it'll get flooded with lymphocytes, white blood cells, and it attacks those things that aren't supposed to be there.
Okay. And so you also mentioned that it had to do with the cardiovascular system. Is that what you said in the beginning? I know you mentioned a bunch of systems. You said immune, you said cardiovascular. What else am I missing? Because I can't remember all that you said.
Hormone, gastrointestinal, neurological.
Okay, so basically, like all your major systems, this is impacting.
Yep, it's all intricately tied together with the lymphatic system, and if the lymphatic system is not moving smoothly, then none of these other systems can really move smoothly.
Okay. All right. So that makes sense. So
Yeah.
so then what are signs that we or if we're having a sluggish lymphatic system?
That's a great question. Because there's no like clear definitive markers for it, we look at a lot of like symptoms that someone's having. It can be, you wake up with a puffy face. A lot of times we do that.
Hmm.
Things slow down at night and things can get kind of stagnant. So you'll see that swelling in the extremities, a lot of times in the ankles.
Yeah, I notice I get that, the ankles.
It can be skin conditions like eczema, allergies, acne, like
Really?
all these different things can be a sign that our lymphatic system's not really moving great.
Okay. And also would it have anything to do with autoimmune diseases and things like that? Or is it could be related to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, at the base of it, a lot of autoimmune comes from inflammation. And when the lymphatic system isn't working, a lot of that inflammation can be there. It working with the lymphatic system helps to bring down that systemic inflammation.
That makes sense. So what is lymphatic massage?
So, lymphatic massage is a technique that we work. So, how I explained that the body is separated into different pathways for our lymphatic system. So, we work with those specific pathways, directing fluid to like the regional lymph nodes that they drain to. And so, we work all those areas. We have lymph nodes, like the major ones. So we have a lot in our neck, our armpit, groin, stomach. We have a lot in those areas. So, we stimulate the lymph nodes first. And then it's a very gentle, kind of rhythmic type work where we're doing a little bit of a skin stretch and we're directing the fluid towards those areas to boost, the flow of the system.
So this would help with any of that fluid retention.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It works so good for that. Bloating, puffiness, all of that. Yeah. I see people for that every single day.
So, does the lymphatic massage help like stimulate a sluggish lymphatic system? Is
Yeah.
that connected?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're stimulating the lymph nodes, and we always start with this area here, your collarbone. It's called the terminus within the lymphatic system, and this is where the lymphatic fluid goes back into the bloodstream. So we always start with this area first because when we stimulate it and kind of pump it and move it, it creates a suction on the rest of the system, which kind of pulls things all the way from your toes all the way up. So,
Mm.
yeah.
And for those that are just listening, Courtney's pointing to the collarbone area. Is that kind
Mm-hmm.
of okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's right. We have a little like indentation right above our collarbone, and it's right in there. It's called the terminus.
Okay. And so you kind of massage that area and
Mm-hmm.
then are you sweeping like because I see your Instagram post like where you're sweeping in certain directions. So is there a
Uh-huh.
certain way that everything flows?
Yeah, there is a certain way. So we have watersheds, and we have one that goes down the very center of our body. We have one that goes right at our collarbone, and then we have one that goes from our belly button to the bottom of our ribs. And so within those areas, they go to certain lymph nodes. So for example, at the left side of your body, your torso, chest, all of that is going to go to your axillary, your armpit lymph nodes. Everything on the right side, up from your belly button up to that, your torso on that side is going to go to your right. All of the legs, both legs come up to the groin
Okay.
on either leg.
Hmm.
And then from the belly button down, goes down to the groin. So yeah, it has certain pathways that it naturally does. And so we work with those to get the best result.
Okay. And so what about things like dry brushing? Because I have followed videos along on YouTube and they tell you this, like to go these certain directions.
Mhm.
Would that be effective at moving the lymph system?
So it is effective. It does work. I think it's more effective when you're stimulating all the lymph nodes first.
Okay.
And I don't know if most people do that or not. I don't think they really do.
Hmm.
But you have to stimulate everything first before you do the dry brushing so that you're creating that suction. Like I said, you want to create the
Right.
suction.
Okay.
And then everything you do is going to be better, whether it's spa shop, dry brushing, rebounding, vibration, whatever you do is going to be better once you've already stimulated those areas. For me, I like dry brushing, but I think there's other things that can be a little bit more effective. And one
Mhm.
thing, so I just did a post on this and it like blew up, but you never start at your feet. And I see so
Yeah.
many people do tutorials. They're like, start at your feet, work towards your heart. I'm like, no, no, like you don't start at your feet. You work closest and you work your way down, That way you're kind of like chipping away at the system and not kind of pushing everything from one end to the other.
What about the head? Is that part of the system too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's a huge, important part of the system. It's actually, our brain drains through our deep cervical lymph nodes here on our neck.
Okay.
And it aids with, if you have brain fog and acne, things like that. It even helps with wrinkles, because a lot of
Mhm.
that can be lymphatic stagnation.
Really?
So,
Oh.
yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. And it's the same with the face as far as like the watershed. It's right in the center and then it goes out to the side. So when we're working the face, we start at the center and we go to the side and then down the neck. Yeah.
So I'm really curious as to how would the average person know I need to see someone to help me with my lymphatic drainage? Like, how would they come up to that conclusion, right? Because it's very interesting. This is fairly kind of new to the ear, I think, for most.
Yeah, I mean, it's been around for a really long time, but it's just certainly gotten like super popular recently
Right.
because people realized how much it can benefit like puffiness in the face, like
Yeah.
really for beauty applications. It's really helpful. As far as who needs it, I mean, if you're breathing,
Okay.
everybody needs lymphatic, work done. A lot of it I feel you can do yourself. Like we should be doing something for ourselves every single day.
Can I pause there for a second?
Yeah.
When you said if you're breathing, you need it,
Uh-huh.
right? Why do you say that? Why did you say if you're breathing, you need it? That's how I feel about like training. Like if you're breathing, you need to work out. I don't care who you are, you need to be
Mhm.
training. So why did you say that?
Same thing because everybody needs to support their lymphatic system. Modern life, we're super stressed.
Mhm.
We're in really bad posture, whole rounded shoulders, forward head position. I know, right?
And I'm like fixing
But
myself.
but because this is such a vitally important area for the system, when we're like that, everything like shuts down and closes, right? Everything gets shortened. So it's just everybody needs it.
So it could like get clogged up and
Yeah.
then that's when we're talking about having like a sluggish and everything's kind of moving around slowly and that type of thing.
Yeah, because everything kind of can get backed up because of toxic load within the system.
Right.
So, what we put into our bodies on our bodies goes into toxic load. What the lymphatic system has to transport, right, has to detoxify.
Right.
So, the more bad things we eat or chemicals we put on ourselves, we're adding to that load and it slows everything down.
Right.
Lymph can either be super fluid like water or viscous like honey.
Mm.
There are that extremes, and it really depends on a lot of what we do affects that.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I was gonna say, like, say you don't eat well, and then the next day you wake up and you feel that puffy, like your rings might be tight, your bags are bigger.
Yeah.
So what would you do in that case?
In that case, I would hydrate for sure. And then for me, whenever I'm doing the face, I really like to focus on the neck. It's an underrated area but vitally important for our face.
Mhm.
So you're always going to start with stimulating the terminus, but then you're going to work the neck, right? And there's a muscle here. It's called the SEM. It kind of sticks out here. When this is tight, it really pulls everything forward and kind of shortens the distance that things need to travel, which is not a good thing. But really by gripping it and kind of relaxing it, releasing it.
Oh, yeah, you can feel that's a big muscle, like, on the side of your neck.
And a lot of people have a really hard time grabbing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there'll be a lot of like adhesions and sticky spots in here, but working this really helps to open everything. So
And that would help your face?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because when it's tight, so you have to think like with fascia and muscles, right? Lymph has to go through and around these areas. So if these tissues are tight, it makes it a lot harder for the lymph to flow, smoothly, properly, efficiently. So when we can relax fascia and the muscles, it creates more space really for lymph to flow better. So yeah, so if I'm working on the face, it's always going to be focusing on the neck, front and back, because the back affects the face as well.
Mhm.
And then we have lymph nodes in front and behind our ears. So we're going to stimulate those. And then these lymph nodes under our chin are really important because a lot of the drainage for our eyes all comes down like this and it goes out like that.
And it goes underneath our chin
Yeah, and then to the neck and down. So, we're going to stimulate all of these lymph nodes in here.
along the
And
jawline.
it's all under the,
Mhm.
the jawline.
Okay.
And then, you could leave it at that. Once you stimulate, it does create a pull on the system. So you could leave it at that. But if you wanted to do actual strokes to direct the fluid, you then kind of move it in this type of flow, rhythmic.
So what you're doing is you're taking the palm your fingers and you're kind of moving the skin on your face,
Yeah.
on the sides of your
On
cheeks,
your cheeks.
and you're going in an upward movement.
So it's a little skin stretch up.
A little skin stretch up on the
Feel
face.
the just enough to feel a little bit of stretch.
Mhm.
And then you're moving it. There's a directional movement towards where you want it to go, which is the ear.
Towards the ear.
Yeah. So it's just that type of movement.
But you're saying the key point is when you
Yeah.
stimulate those is that the
Yeah.
nodes the lymph nodes you're
Yeah.
stimulating? Okay. So that's a really
Hmm.
important part, which I think I have to admit I've missed
Yeah.
that message because a lot of times you'll see people on Instagram doing the gua sha or whatever, but you don't necessarily see them stimulating the
Right.
lymph first,
Yeah. That's all right.
the lymph nodes.
Yeah. That's always that step before any type of lymphatic work.
And they probably have no clue, I gotta add to that,
Well, there could be plenty of people that have no
right?
Oh,
clue. Yeah.
Right?
a lot of times that's the truth. They're not lymphatic specialists, so a lot of
Right.
times that's the truth.
Yeah, and when you say about, like, stimulating, it's basically like massaging the area, is that right? When you're saying, like, stimulating,
It is.
is it like massaging?
Yeah, there's a
Right.
certain way that we do it in treatment. So here at the terminus, again, it's always a bit of a skin stretch and then directional movement. So here we're going up a little bit and down. But I don't like to get people to be like, you don't have to be super precise. You don't have to like, don't let the good be the perfect be the enemy of the good. Something my husband always says,
Yes,
you
we love
know?
that message. Yeah.
Yes, it's not an all or nothing mindset.
Yeah.
And
Right,
when you
just
say the
start.
terminus, I just want so that our listeners that can't see the video, just it's the collarbone. You're putting your fingers inside the collarbone and
Yeah.
you're just going along the bone, right? You're going the
Right. So when you hunch your shoulder forward, it creates a little indentation
yeah.
next to your
Mhm.
collarbone, and it's right in that area on both sides,
Sure.
right? And so you can just do kind of a pumping motion.
Yeah.
You can even rub it like this. You can tap it. There's all different ways that you
Tapping.
can stimulate it. I like to do tapping. Yeah, tapping's great. But when like I'm busy and I only have 2 minutes, I'll just literally tap all of my points
Mhm.
and move on with my day. There's different ways that you can do it. And again, you don't have to be, I mean, you do have to be precise and the order is important, but don't worry so much about getting it perfect. It's just starting.
Great.
Just do something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what is the difference between then inflammation, swelling, puffiness, and fluid retention, or are they all one of the same?
No, they're not. So inflammation is the immune response to some type of insult to the body. It's really the healing that happens. So it can manifest in heat, redness, pain, swelling, right?
Mhm.
So that's like the acute inflammation. And then of course we can have chronic inflammation when that acute inflammation doesn't go down. We can then have chronic, that lasts for a long time, which creates a lot of problems. But then swelling is what you see. So when your ankle swells up because you sprained it or something like that. So that's the swelling we see. It's when there's an excess of fluid in the interstitial space. And then puffiness is a type of swelling, but it's a much smaller, a much less grade. So it's often soft and it will go away throughout the day. Like you
Mhm.
wake up puffy in the morning, but then throughout the day with your movement, it will go down. And then fluid retention is not tied to any like injury or anything like that. Usually it has more to do with like salt intake or foods that cause our body to hold on to extra fluid. You'll see it in the ankles or hands, things like that. That can also be tied to like renal or cardiac issues, but usually for most people it has to do with like dietary.
Okay. And then, so how can we reduce eye bags and puffiness? I mean, we talked a little bit about the face, but those eye bags, man, I have to say that is my nemesis. I've always had eye bags. Some degree, I think it is genetic. My mom had
Yeah.
eye bags. Like it is kind of a thing. But I know the puffiness part of it, the dark circles could be one thing, but the puffiness varies. Like it's not like it's the same every day. So I know there's something that can be done. So share with us what we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's because of the drainage pattern of the face, you have to work everything below it. So we have to make sure everything below it is drained. So really it just takes consistency. What we
Mm,
already talked about is starting here, focusing on the neck, focusing on everything below it, making sure that you're doing it every single day so that it has that momentum. And
right.
then, specifically working the area. And there's some myofascial work that can be done
Hmm.
for everyone. You can just do like little massages. Like these muscles here tend to be a little tight, which
So, we're talking about the little muscles along the sides of the
the
nose,
bridge.
the
Yeah.
Okay.
bridge.
Yeah. So you can just do kind of like little circles down them just to kind of release some tension and like some little sweeps. things
So
like that, to just to try to
yeah, we're using, like, our index finger, and we're just using our finger to stimulate, like, a little massage along the sides of the nose into the like, the corners toward the corners.
yeah, down towards the nostrils.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's, like, away from the eyes, starting in the
yeah,
corners of the eyes
and then
and
coming
working our
down.
way down.
And
Yeah,
again, just to make sure I really understand, so you would start with the neck area first? Is that what
yes,
like, because you did say the order matters. Like,
yes,
you it would be best to start in that area, and then you would work to the face? Or, like
yes.
okay, okay, so just to clarify.
Yeah. So the way I love to explain it is like, what snow's like here in Jersey and, when it gets like really wet, heavy snow, you're never gonna move snow by pushing it, right?
Mhm.
And so you're gonna chip away at it. And it's the same with the system. We don't want to start here and try to push everything down. You
Okay.
move everything down first,
Mhm.
and then,
Yeah,
then you get better results.
'Cause you're opening up everything so
Yeah.
that it
yeah,
can flow down.
Yes. Hmm.
Okay.
yeah.
Ah, I understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really interesting because I see the connection, like, so, for example, this morning I had a client and they had some issues in their back and, like, their lower back, and so I started first with their calves and their hamstrings, and then I went in their neck and just opened up their traps, and then I went into the area that they were having discomfort in so that
Hmm.
it has a place to travel, and yeah, so I
Exactly.
totally get that, it's very similar.
Yeah, we always start at the end point,
Mhm.
which, and when you think about it, it makes sense. But we always start at the end point, which is here, because we want to make sure that this is clear so that everything can be pulled and can move smoothly to that exit point.
And tell me again how poor posture contributes to the blockages.
Okay, so because this is where everything drains, right? You want this to be open. You want this to be,
Like the neck and chest
yes,
area, like chest
yes,
area or the
exactly.
yeah, okay.
And so if your posture is this,
Mhm.
look at what happens to this. Everything kind of gets shut off. Everything in the chest shortens, the neck shortens, everything kind of comes in. And so being that this is where everything needs to flow, then it slows everything down. So posture is something I, really say to all of my clients and I talk about a lot on Instagram just because you need your chest to be open. You
Mhm.
need it to be open so that everything can flow. A lot of the puffiness in the face comes from this being backed up because of having shoulder rounded, having a forward head position. It just shuts everything down.
And we're on our phones all day long looking
Yeah.
down. I mean, I look at my kids and I'm just so scared for them because they're in their teens and they have a long ways to go and they're just constantly head down, like all day
Yeah.
long. Yeah.
I know. Like as I was preparing for this, I was on my laptop a lot and I had to keep like catching myself like, okay, stop. You're like looking down.
Yeah.
It's something that you really have to be mindful about. It's not easy, not at
No,
all.
no, it's definitely not. What are ways we can naturally support our lymphatic system?
Okay, so for this, because the lymphatic system does not have a central pump to it, like the heart, we have to really do the pumping for it. And that is through exercise. We have to
Mhm.
do movement
All right.
to get it moving. Like I said, the lymphangions within the collectors, they do contract and they do move. So there is like a little bit of a pump in the system, but we need to do it. So when we're exercising, when we're walking, when we're running, whatever we're doing, it's like a pumping of the system. So that's a huge thing. Movement, hydration is
Mhm.
a huge one. There's a survey that found that like nearly 75% of Americans drink at most 2.5 cups of water a day,
Yeah.
which is like chronic dehydration, right?
Mhm.
And if the fluid is, if water is so important to the system, you're creating like a viscous environment. It's not going to be running smoothly.
What's your recommendation?
For hydration, I mean, I think it varies for each person based on weight, like how much you can
Oh,
take, but I think that's right? But yeah, so trying to make sure you're getting what is right for each individual person. Diaphragmatic breathing. So that is breathing behind our belly button, which activates the diaphragm and it stimulates a lymph node that we have right below it. It's called the cisterna chyli, which is like the biggest lymph node we have in our body.
wow.
So that's
I didn't know
important
that.
for gastrointestinal health, that lymph node. So when we do that, go ahead.
Is that when I see you, like, I saw you in your Instagram where you're, like, digging your hands inside your stomach, like, above
Uh-huh.
your belly
Yeah.
button,
Yeah, doing like a little pumping.
and you're going back and forth and
Yeah.
wiggling there? Okay.
And
Yeah.
wait, tell us again, that's the biggest lymph node in your body? Is that what you just
Yep.
said?
Yep.
Wow.
Okay, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's an important one. So we can do it through like that pumping motion that helps, but
Okay.
diaphragmatic breathing. So it's the way I like to explain it is breathing behind your belly button, like getting your whole belly to move really stimulates that and activates it. For some people, compression works really well. Like if you're on your standing all day long, like some compression socks can be really good.
Mhm.
That supports it. And then limiting toxic load, what we put in our bodies, what we put on our bodies, all of that has a huge play in supporting, the system.
So when you say what we put on our bodies, I to get what we're putting in our bodies, so you're meaning like what we're eating and such. And
Hmm.
when you talk about what we're putting on our bodies, are you talking about like lotions and things like that?
Yeah. So you recently had Trina Felber on
Yes,
your
Yes.
that's where I
podcast.
Yeah.
was going.
Yeah, and she was talking all about that, and it, like, resonated so much with me because 'cause I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. Everything we put on, like, gets absorbed and it goes into the system, and all these chemicals that our body doesn't know what to do with, guess where it ends up? It's load for the lymphatic system to try to process and move around."
Right, because when we put it in our body, at least I think it's like our liver like filters it. But when you put it on your body, it bypasses that
Mhm.
process and it goes
Yeah.
straight into your bloodstream. And then that would probably give that whole lymphatic process so much more of a load.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's another reason, I guess, why everyone should be working on this because no matter what, even if you have the cleanest products and everything, we're out in the world touching
Yeah.
things and the air and all of it. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
it makes a lot of
absolutely.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely,
Wow.
and, all the food that's kind of food, but not really food,
Mhm.
like, our body doesn't really know what to do with it, and a lot of times that's why people have hard time losing weight, because our body will store toxins within fat cells if it doesn't know what to do with it, it does it to protect our organs. It will store it in the fat cells, and then you can't lose the fat because your body's literally holding on to it to protect itself, so it's like all these little,
Yeah.
chemicals and things that whatever we can avoid best, that's really the best thing to do.
Mhm.
Wow. That was very, very. So, what about reducing swelling in our ankles and feet?
So our we do calf pumps. So it's literally just being on your feet and doing like this with your feet and your calves are working. And the calves are kind of like the pumps of the lower legs, right?
It was like going up on your toes, like you're standing and you're going
Mhm.
up on your toes. What? Or okay, got it.
Yeah, so that movement, the calf is actually kind of pumping the fluid up. So that's really helpful when you have, swollen ankles. Again,
What about if you're laying on your back and you put your legs up?
yeah, at the end of the day, that's a great thing. Put your legs up at the end of the day.
Legs up the wall. I love that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I love it. Stimulate everything, all the lymph nodes, and put your legs up.
Okay, so that was key because I forgot about that.
Yes.
So if you're looking to reduce the swelling in your ankles and feet, first do some of the work of the upper
Yeah.
body work, and then you can do the calf pumping or the legs up the wall and getting some of
Mhm.
that circulation going.
And
Yeah.
would that help, like, after a flight? Because a lot of times I know I'm very
Oh, yeah.
swollen.
Absolutely. Before and after a flight, do it. And you can even do it while you're sitting. I did
Mhm.
something recently on that when you're traveling, like, you can do it while you're sitting. It may not be, like, the most effective thing, but it's better than nothing, when you're sitting
Mhm.
a long time.
Mhm.
That's so funny.
We have lymph nodes behind our knees, and so those are really good for, when you're, sitting for a long time like that traveling. So you're gonna, do everything up here, you're gonna work your way down to the groin and then behind the knees, and that's gonna move everything from the ankles.
So when Kristen and I are at the airport at the ending of this month, we're going to be at the airport and we're going to be laying on our backs with our legs up before
Send me a picture.
entering
I
the
wanna see
I
it.
plane.
can't wait. We'll do that at Newark. Yeah, I can't wait.
Dude, we gotta do that. That's so funny.
Another
Well,
good thing for ankle swelling is vibration plates and rebounding. Those are 2 really good things. Just in general for the lymphatic system, I love them. I have both, but especially for, like, ankle swelling, yeah, it's really good.
I love rebounding. I think it's great, but I never thought about opening up the lymph nodes first. I don't do that.
Oh
I
my
usually just
goodness.
get on there. Yeah,
Yeah,
and jump.
you'll see such big difference when you do that first.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
That's so cool, Kristen, because Kristen also rebounds for other reasons.
I do. Stress
Right.
release.
Yeah. And you know what's great? When you post that, Kristen, you're gonna have to say, and now I'm adding to this list of why I'm
I'll
rebounding.
have a new reason. Yeah, no, I find rebounding really gets my stress out. I put on some, like, crazy music and just go, and
Headbanger music.
it feels good. Like,
I love
headbanger.
it.
Yeah.
It's so good.
So we wanted to ask you about TMJ. If you could share what TMJ is and how are you helping people alleviate it?
Absolutely. So TMJ, it's temporomandibular joint dysfunction. So it's the joint here in our jaw. And there's three different types of dysfunction. There's myofascial pain, so pain within the fascia and the muscles. There's internal derangement, where the disc in between is kind of displaced or there's a dislocation. And then there can also be arthritis in the joint. So those are the three types of like dysfunction. Mostly I work with the myofascial pain aspect of it. And so my sessions, what I do, and they're so good, they're so relaxed because we're not just working like this area, the jaw area, we're working all surrounding tissues. So it's the scalp, it's the neck, it's the upper back, the chest, because everything is connected
Mhm.
to creating, this pain. And a lot of the times, most of this pain comes from stress, comes from tension and tightness in the neck and shoulders. And so I do like myofascial release, massage, and lymphatic as an approach to alleviating it with intraoral or buccal massage. And that works the muscles inside, which is the masseter, which is right here on the cheek. You can get the outside, but then you can also get it from the inside as well. And then the pterygoids, which are inside the mouth. And so, yeah, we work all of that to get all of the muscles of the jaw and helps it to relax.
And how many sessions would you say it would take for somebody that has TMJ, like just like that tension? Like, how many sessions do you think it would take for them to start getting some relief from that?
I would say it depends on the severity. Everyone really has,
Different
varying,
levels?
yeah. Like I have TMJ, but thankfully it's not horrible.
I do me too, I'm like you. I have
Yeah.
TMJ. I have clicking in my left jaw
Yeah.
too. It doesn't hurt, but it never stops. Like
Yeah.
and I
Same.
even yeah, okay.
Yeah. So for most people, like they feel some relief just after the first session.
Right.
But then depending on severity, it might be like a few more sessions. And then I have people who come see me for maintenance,
Right.
once a month or every 2 weeks or whatever,
Right.
But yeah, I can usually get them feeling pretty good within, 2 or 3 sessions.
That's great because there really
Yeah.
aren't a lot of good solutions for that TMJ. I know they do the night guard, like the mouth guard
Yeah.
thing, and that never really helped me that much.
And they're uncomfortable and a lot of people just don't wear them because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would rip it out in the middle of the night and like throw it across
Yeah.
the room.
Yeah. And really they mostly protect you like your teeth from chipping, or wearing them down, but they really don't do a ton for like the actual issues.
Yeah. And so I think I saw it was your post. You said something like your teeth should never be touching only when you're chewing. That's like really resonated with me, like stuck with me because I was like thinking the other day, like, oh, my teeth are touching and I'm not eating. Like, what am I doing? Like, I guess I'm clenching, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the resting position of our tongue should be at the roof of our mouth, right behind your teeth, and just lightly suction there. And then your teeth will naturally just kind of separate a little bit. And that should be resting when we're not talking or eating. That should be where tongue position is. And yeah, it keeps us from clenching.
Wow. What is the buccal massage? What's that?
So buccal is the intraoral. So we're working inside the mouth to get all those muscles of the joint. It's really great for TMJ dysfunction. People also use it a lot for beauty applications because it helps with like symmetry in the face. It helps to depuff.
Oh,
It's really relaxing. Most people love it.
so the buccal massage is basically you have to put your fingers inside the person's mouth.
Yeah, with gloves, of course.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
put your fingers
Right.
inside their mouth. Yeah. And we're
Okay.
we're working. Yeah.
Right, because, like, so we also have an audience, like, that can't see the video, so just so that they
Sorry.
know no, that's fine. So that you're putting your finger and okay, so that's really interesting because I never knew that. Did you know that, Kristen?
I've heard of it. I've never had it done. And I know only certain massage therapists could do that, right? Like you couldn't go to just anybody.
Yeah, it's specialized training.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Very interesting, but I had no idea that it would help with face symmetry and puffiness. I didn't know any of that. I thought maybe it was for TMJ and things like that. So
Yeah,
cool.
no, it's really good, and the most thing or the number one thing I hear after a session is just like, "I feel so much space."
Ah,
That's what
yeah,
my clients tell me, like, "I feel space,"
Yeah.
like things can move and kinda breathe?
yeah.
Yeah.
What is a lymphatic gut reset?
So that is something I do as part of my lymphatic sessions. It's deeper abdominal techniques coupled with breathing, and it really helps to get everything moving. So a lot of people deal with bloating, especially
Mhm.
as we get older.
Absolutely. A lot of women in our audience are dealing with that. as, over 40 and
Yeah, a lot of bloating.
yeah.
And so what it does is it just kind of gets everything moving, and we work with the natural rhythm of the colon and the intestines. And, I've gotten messages from people after like, thank you so much. I feel so much better, but it's kind of getting everything moving.
And how do you do that? Like, you're laying on a table and you're just massaging inside their stomach?
Yeah, so they're on the table and it's deeper pressure on
Okay.
certain areas like near the liver and spleen and like near the hips, belly
Okay.
button, and it's coupled with them doing diaphragmatic breathing.
So you're asking them to breathe as
Yeah.
you're working together
Mhm.
as in a partnership.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really, really cool. So, like,
Yeah.
have you ever worked with somebody like, "Okay, listen, I need to do the TMJ thing, I need to do the gut reset thing."
Yeah. Sign me up for all of
All the
it.
time. I get like couple of sessions.
Oh,
People
yeah?
will do, yeah. People are like, I want to do this and this. I'm like, okay, if I have time, like we'll stack all these appointments.
Oh, wow, that's really cool. Great.
Yeah.
And I can
Uh,
see where it would just give you so much more space. Like when we're hunched
Yeah.
over, everything's so compressed. So I see
Yeah.
what you're saying, how you're creating space so that you would feel so much better.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. It feels so good. I'll do it to myself, like if I can. Kind of hard to do it to yourself. But like when I'm feeling bloated, I'll just like work the area and get everything moving, and yeah, it feels better. I think
Great.
so often we're kind of afraid to touch ourselves, like massage, like we're afraid we're gonna do something or just, but it's like it's so important just to get in there, feel the tissue,
Mhm.
if something kind of hurts, just feel that. Like, does it feel better when you rub it? Then give it a little bit of love. Don't be afraid to, work on yourself.
Yes, yes, I feel that. You're speaking my language. So, being mindful of our time today, Courtney, what are 2 simple things we can do today to take care of our lymphatic system and age strong?
So I had to really think about this because like a million things came to my mind. So I'm going to start with like the basic hydration, exercise. If you're already doing those, when it comes to the face, focus on your neck.
Okay.
Focus on relaxing your neck and getting this muscle to relax, the SCM.
That was the one on the side of the neck
Yes.
that you should be able to grab. If you can't, is it just really tight? Is that me?
Yes.
What it means?
Yes.
Okay.
If it's really tight, you need to massage it.
You need to
Okay.
keep
Okay.
trying to get it, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
just a few minutes each day, kind of pull on it, massage it. You'll feel trigger points in here, like really
Mhm.
tight, hurtful areas, so just work those areas.
Okay.
The other thing is posture for the face. Have to focus on posture. Yeah, so those are like for the face, it's really neck and posture
Mhm.
and just stimulating the lymph nodes every single day
Yep.
and doing some type of movement. Like those
Yeah.
that coupled together just helps,
Fantastic. And now, so
so
before
much.
I rebound, I'm going to work on my lymph nodes first to kind of open it
Yeah.
up because I didn't know about that.
Absolutely.
So that
Uh-huh.
was a great finding today. Great learning. I want everyone to know they can connect with Courtney on Instagram. Her handle is at co.ly.sa and also visit her website at colysatherapies.com. Thank you so much
Yay.
for coming on today, Courtney. I learned a ton.
Thank you so much. It was so fun being here. I also wanted to mention that pretty soon I'm going to be coming out with a course on like self-care for your face, teaching everybody how to do lymphatic for your face like every day.
Great.
So that's something that's going to be coming out the end of this summer. So I'm excited for that too.
Okay, awesome. We'll look
And
for
we are
that.
too. Yeah, we're very excited for that as well.
And
Make
yeah,
sure you
definitely follow Courtney's Instagram because it's really helpful. There's so much information on there. It's great.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
We need your support. If you're enjoying the show, follow, like, and subscribe. Thank you for Aging Strong with Functional Moms Podcast. The information provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended for the purpose of diagnosing, curing, treating, or preventing any disease. We are functional medicine certified health coaches and not licensed medical professionals. The opinions and advice of guests are their own and also not considered to be medical advice. Always consult with a healthcare professional when making any healthy lifestyle changes. We would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment or review. Email us at info@functionalmoms.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the subscribe button.